Hey there and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, head into horror, and plunge into peril. If you've ever wanted Kate Beckinsale and or Hugh Jackman on you, you're in the right place. I'm Justin, and I really don't think friars can fuck.
I guess. I'm Nico, and for the
Had
first
all that time, Nico.
I know, man.
All that time.
I don't fucking have an excuse. I'm Nico, and I'm here too, I guess.
Wow. Fucking fail.
Well, I'm Dan, and Buffy really should have been in this movie.
And we are here today to review Van Helsing, the 2004 version. So this was directed by Stephen Sommers, starring Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing, Kate Beckinsale as Anna, Richard Roxburgh as Count Dracula, Schuler Hensley as Frankenstein's monster, and David Wenham as Carl the Friar. So we open in the glorious year of 1887 with Dr. Frankenstein giving life to his now famous monster, or infamous, depending on how you think about it, while Dracula sits in the back and watches. Yup, this is that kind of movie. A mob shows up, and Dracula kills Dr. Frankenstein rather preemptively when you kind of realize what happens later. And right after that, Frankenstein's monster takes his creator's body, and they're kind of attacked by the mob and fall into a hole. Time for a time skip of 1 year. We now see Van Helsing, our titular hero, fighting Mr. Hyde. He's supposed to take him in alive because he's also Dr. Jekyll and kind of worth saving, but he kind of fails, and Dr. Jekyll / Mr. Hyde fall off a building and splat on the streets below. Oh well. So, Dan, what happens after that?
Well, Van Helsing then heads over to the Vatican City, and we get a bit of a backstory about how he lost his memory, but he basically runs around hunting monsters for the church.
Mm-hmm.
His latest dispatch is to go to Transylvania and kill Dracula. He brings Carl, a friar who apparently can fuck, and weapons inventor, with him.
And does.
Also, there's a backstory about how the Valerius family swore to kill Dracula, and if they don't, then their entire family going back 400 years will be condemned to hell. So now there's a cut to the aforementioned family where we see Anna and her brother Velkin, the last two remaining family members, manage to shoot a werewolf, but it tackles Velkin off of a cliff, seemingly killing him.
Well, only one family member left, Nico, so I'm sure something good is about to happen.
One good thing followed by a very large series of bad things. So Van Helsing rides into town. Yay! And then Dracula's brides show up in said town, and shit just gets all kinds of fucked up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Van Helsing and company managed to destroy one of the brides, and now there are two left. I don't recall which one dies first, but it's not terribly important. One of them dies. It turns out that Velkin is alive, though, and he visits Anna at night to try and tell her Dracula's secret, but unfortunately he ends up transforming into a werewolf and he runs away. Van Helsing and Anna then track Velkin to Frankenstein's castle, wherein they stumble upon Dracula's true Keikaku. Dude be fucking a lot. Turns out Dracula has thousands of tiny little vampire babies, but given that they're vampires, they're born dead. So he's trying to replicate Dr. Frankenstein's experiments and give life to them. To date, he's been unsuccessful since they have a really bad habit of popping like acidic flying pimples after like 10 minutes of being born. It's gross.
Well, Dan, with that insight, what's going to happen next?
Using Velkin as a catalyst, Dracula revives his spawn and they go to town on, well, the town. Van Helsing engages in combat with Dracula, where the vampire implies that the two actually have a history together, and also that Van Helsing is about 400 years old. Dracula's broods pop, and Van Helsing and Anna then escape. But they stumble upon none other than Dr. Frankenstein's monster. The monster tells them that he is the key to giving life to Dracula's undead children because of reasons. Unfortunately, Velkin the werewolf was listening in on this conversation, so now Dracula knows where Frankenstein's monster is and will pursue him. Friar Carl also manages to find some secret info that the devs accidentally left in this one painting, and he learns that only a werewolf can kill Dracula.
I see. Well, knowing this, the group get on carriages and attempt to get Frankenstein's monster to the Vatican. Unfortunately, they're intercepted by vampires and also Velkin. Van Helsing kills Velkin, but is bitten and is now starting to become a werewolf. Also, Anna does get kidnapped. They meet up with Dracula at his, air quotes, summer house, and they do manage to save Anna, but then Frankenstein's monster gets kidnapped. So they did kind of swap prisoners, just maybe not in the way they intended. Kind of a bummer. But the group then pulls some bullshit to find the hidden location of Dracula's castle, which was through a mirror that was behind a map in the same house they were living in the whole time. Wow. And they also learned that Dracula has a cure for Van Helsing's werewolfism, so long as Van Helsing takes it before the last stroke of midnight.
The word you're looking for is lycanthropy, my friend.
Hey, didn't we have a whole debate about lycanthropy versus werewolf, and is it the same or different?
Did we?
Yeah.
I think we did at some point, yeah, but, you know.
Well, Dan, it's time for the last strokes. It's your turn. What's going to happen?
In these final strokes, Dracula manages to revive his brood, but Van Helsing takes on Dracula 1v1.
Final destination, Fox only, 5 lives, no items, let's go.
Yeah, right.
That's
For
what
real.
happened, though.
And thanks to his werewolf powers, he manages to kill Dracula. Then all of Drac's kids go pop anyways because Dracula is now dead. Anna shows up with the antidote to cure Van Helsing, but she dies in the process of administering it to Van Helsing. The movie ends with Carl and Van Helsing cremating Anna, and Van Helsing sees her rejoined with her family in heaven.
Aww.
The end.
Well, we have a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and get to it. First off, we're talking about how this movie sounds, and I'll lead here. This is a very varied soundtrack. I must say. There's tons of like parts where it's like really epic sounding, and then there's parts where it's kind of more, I don't know, mundane is kind of the word I'd use, but and then there's moments where it's kind of like gothic. So there's a lot to the sound, I feel like. I liked most of it. The only thing I will say is like sometimes the music was really, really epic, and I thought what was going on screen might not necessarily be quite so epic. Special shout out to the last scene where like Van Helsing and Carl are riding away into the sunset, and there's like this epic chanting going on in the background. It's like, oh, 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 and he's like driving away into the sunset. I'm like, bro, the movie's done. Like that should have been the music you did for the fight against Dracula. Like that music was not there for the fight. So kind of, give and take a little bit. But Dan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, to me, and this touches another thing we may talk about, but this movie is like an action adventure, a mid-2000s action adventure.
Very
and
much
it sounds
so.
like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, the soundtrack is very epic at times. The Foley is very heavy-handed, as you would expect in like an action movie. I think my favorite was there's a time where Van Helsing and Anna are like sneaking into the castle or something, and Van Helsing's like, "Shh, we have to be quiet." And then she draws her sword and goes, "Swing!" And I was like, "Wow, that's louder than they were talking." Okay, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like an action adventure horror movie from the mid-2000s.
Nico, your sounds on the sounds.
So I've got a hot take. I kind of think the soundtrack fucking bumps, especially the one track that has a heavy focus on this acoustic guitar that's just like shredding the entire time. It kind of kicks ass, I'm not gonna lie. But there are some scenes where it just gets real fucking jaunty, like suddenly you're on a ride at Disneyland instead of in this gothic horror action flick.
I think that might be potentially, because I know nothing about the soundtrack, I think that might potentially be Van Helsing's theme. But don't quote me on that.
It probably is. Yeah.
The acoustic-y one that Nico's talking about. Now, in terms of the looks, I'll say that I actually liked the way this one looked. I think the set design was pretty good. A lot of the special
love the
effects
set
are what
design.
you'd expect out of the, mid-2000s. And just as a general note, it's a gothic movie, and I think they at least nailed the gothic really well. Also, get back and say I love you. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like an action adventure horror movie from the mid 2000s. I mean, it's. I also, like you said, like I like the set design. I like the costume design a lot.
Yes.
I mean, Kate Beckinsale is gorgeous, but I also like her just like outfit. I think
Yeah.
looks
Yeah,
badass too.
baller as shit.
There's a shit ton of CGI, and it's not the
I don't
greatest.
think
you
it's
know,
that bad. I
I
don't
think
think it's
there's
that
some
bad.
pretty fucking obvious green screens at a few times.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're watching, as I've said many times already, a mid 2000s action adventure movie, and it looks like it. So I try not to judge it too hard because it looks like a product of the times, and it's okay, but just keep that in mind.
I will say, Nico, I do agree with you. I don't think it's that bad.
Real
I don't think
recognize
it's
real.
that bad. Now, I will say they thought they were being real slick with having Dracula's brides the swap between vampire and human, but I can forgive. I can forgive. Nico, what do you think?
I think that the werewolves in this looked a million times better than they did in Dog Soldiers.
Hey, whoa!
Pew
What
pew
the
pew
fuck?
pew pew pew.
Well, first off, Dog Soldiers was earlier than this movie, and they also weren't CG. But
I know. And yet.
I disagree. I disagree.
That's all I gotta say on that.
Well, then, it's time for us to traverse the tactical tightrope of this movie's plot.
Nice alliteration.
That was good.
We have vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein, with a little side piece of just fucking over just some religious text as well. We'll try and wade through some of this here. First off, I gotta ask the room, what'd you think of the decision to have Dr. Frankenstein making Frankenstein's monster because Dracula bankrolled it so that he could come up with a way, unbeknownst to him, to provide a corpse or a thing that could conduct
Corpses.
electricity so that Dracula could revive his undead dead babies? Because for some reason, even though they're clearly revived at multiple times in the movie, I guess they run out of charge or something and then they explode. But somehow Frankenstein Frankenstein's monster being the catalyst for this is somehow going to make everything okay.
Yep, he's a lithium ion battery.
Yeah, I checked with the boys in the lab. It all adds up to me. I don't get the confusion here.
He's got extra life.
So how'd you feel about having the big three, though? Like the Wolfman, in fact, Wolfmen, Dracula, vampires, and of course, Frankenstein's monster. How'd you feel about having these big horror icons all in one movie? And do you think it was too much or enough?
I think it kicked ass, and I like this movie a lot more than I think I'm willing to admit right now. But at any rate, I really think it's fun, especially now that I've finally finished Dracula and, earlier I'd been read Frankenstein, but, it is satisfying to just see these icons in while not at all accurate to like any part of the books at all. It's just a fun sort of mashup. It's like if they got fucking Marvel versus Capcom, but of these sort of like gothic icons and made a movie out of it.
I would have honestly preferred it if they had all just fought and it was a 5-minute movie. I would have probably preferred that. But hold your lore inaccuracies, Nico, because we're definitely going to dive into that. Dan, these icons, was it right to have all of them in the same flick? Did they make it work?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Nico. I think it was cool to see all of them living in the same world. I think they are icons living. I thought it was pretty cool. It was fun. It was just an entertaining time. And, it's one of those movies where you just don't think too much and you just watch classic gothic icons mashing people up or each other up.
Hey.
So I also want to ask, because Nico made a little note here. So this director is obviously known for The Mummy, amongst other films. And Nico, you said you thought that this was kind of a gothic version of it, almost, The Mummy. What do you mean by that?
So I don't mean insofar as that they have a one-to-one connection on plot points, because they don't, but insofar as both movies are pretty emblematic of a certain aesthetic within horror, and arguably a certain like subgenre or something, I guess you could say. They both have a lot of the sort of same like vibes in general, both with the writing, the tone of it being more just a little bit more whimsical and adventurous sometimes, much like Mummy does. And it helps it was made by the same guy. So
Was he trying to be the Terrence Fisher of the mid 2000s?
yo, honestly, I bet.
I mean, if he was, then this movie kind of ended that streak. But
Womp
Yeah.
womp.
I didn't really like all of them together, like I said, and one of the major reasons is this movie just lines up all the lore that you thought you knew and just shits all over it completely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I can't even describe in words. First off, Van Helsing, there's like references. There's this whole huge side plot where Dracula consistently calls Van Helsing Gabriel and refers to him as like the left hand of God. And then he's like, yeah, last time we met up was like 400 years ago. And I'm just like, what?
And there's a plot about Van Helsing missing his memory because I guess the film needed that, which
Yeah.
it totally
Yeah.
didn't.
I'm so confused as to why they couldn't just have it be Van Helsing's a monster hunter for the church. Why this backstory that never gets explained? Why this backstory that just, why have it there? It's a 2-hour movie, give or take. I don't think that they needed that particular little like, oh, by the way, is he angelic in some way? Maybe. Wink, wink. I don't know about that.
Wink, wink, but no wing, wing.
Yeah. See? And then you have Dan. How do you
Listeners
kill a
can't see
vampire?
the dumb fucking pose I just made.
I could, and I'm better for it. I'd rather watch that than the movie.
Yeah.
But
Damn.
Dan, how do you kill a vampire, and how do you kill Dracula? Like, what's
Well,
classic ways?
classic ways would be stake to the heart. You could do like, I guess, chop off its head too. Sometimes, nobody tried that in this movie. They should have. But
Huh.
yeah, in sunlight,
Wow.
in this movie, the regular vampires they stay pretty good about that. But Dracula is impervious to all of that, and he has to get killed by a werewolf because that makes sense.
Yeah, like they were like, Dracula keeps a cure for the Wolfman around because the werewolf can kill him. What? I'm sorry, what? Like,
What?
how did that sound okay to anybody? How did that sound okay? How did they say, yeah, totally, this makes sense on a logical scale? This Kate Beckinsale was in a movie that made so much more sense, and I never thought I would say this about Underworld, but
Right?
Underworld makes so much more goddamn sense, and it came out I think like a year before Van Helsing. So
I don't know about makes more sense than this with the
Whoa.
whole like vampires
Whoa.
can't see in the dark. Like,
Yeah.
come
bro,
on.
the vampires in this movie were standing outside during the daytime. Literally, they were. It was just like, this movie has a real big fixation on clouds, and I think this movie thinks clouds are way more powerful than they truly are.
That's true too.
So I'll tell you this much. Like,
What's your strife?
Nico, werewolves. When do werewolves transform, classically speaking? When do you become a werewolf?
When you nut.
Well, besides that,
When it's the full moon.
yes. No, there's an asterisk, and you forgot the asterisk.
Oh,
It's when
what's
the
the
full
asterisk?
moon is not being enshrouded by the clouds. What dumb fuckery is that? I'm sorry, what? Like you're just constantly transforming back and forth between human and werewolf whenever there's a cloud running across. What? If that's the case, right? And it's really just a matter of
Could
like,
you only be a werewolf outdoors?
yeah. If it's about obscuring
Yeah.
your body from the moonlight, then just stay the fuck inside and you're not a werewolf anymore. Congrats. Congrats. You just solved the centuries of trauma and torture by just staying inside on the night of the full moon. Now, granted, it's a little more difficult because in this place, it's the full moon for a couple days. But we'll move past that and we'll just say, hey, and to be fair, poor Frankenstein's monster, that actor acts his fucking ass off, bro.
He does.
He puts his entire goddamn heart into the performance, and
Like,
I love it for it.
When he's like screaming, oh, you will not take me. Like, it's almost Shakespearean at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good comparison. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
And I'm like, you deserve so much more than this heaping pile of shit that they gave you to act. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry for you. Like, and I know I'm sounding a little bit caustic. It's only going to get worse. Because I love this type of like lore with werewolves and vampires. And can someone explain to me real quick?
Sure.
Dracula
Gotcha.
has a fucking army, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry
Yep.
about it.
So this implies that Dracula has been like running around. Because, I mean, this is in Budapest, where he's got his army chilling. And that's a pretty major city.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of them.
Yeah, and that can't be all of them because basically,
That's his summer home. We got 3 more seasons.
well, I mean, without any spoilers, this movie kind of rips off a Blade a little bit, but I think there are more vampires than just, whatever. But the movie's like, also, haha, you kill Dracula, you kill all the vampires he ever created. Okay. Just
I mean,
way
I
to
think
tie
that
that off
part
in a nice
is
bow.
perhaps the least of the offenses that it commits.
So the lore on that kind of goes back and forth a little bit. And without getting too deep into it, like some places say like, oh, like if you manage to kill the vampire before you completely turn, you'll be okay. But
Right.
once you turn, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's mad weird. But I want to ask Dan, I mean, obviously there are some issues with the plot that we've kind of gone over. Do you think that Rule of Cool kind of surpasses all that and it just becomes, well, the plot, a lot of plot holes going on, but is it a good time despite that?
I think it's a good time. And there's sort of a fine line, I think, to how much you can get away with. And I don't think you can ever take this movie seriously. So,
Yeah.
putting it up
Yeah.
in like a pantheon of like great horror movies, I don't think so. But it could be an entertaining time. And again, I think if you just turn your brain off and just watch it, it's cool. Just see this all mishmash of horror icons or gothic icons and just Van Helsing run around and Kate Beckinsale and just doing shit. I don't know. Just you thought you knew vampires, will guess again. Like I don't know.
Very
Cut
much
me on the
so.
edge of my seat because I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Guess again multiple
Right.
times.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was fun to watch.
Nico, based on what you've said, I'm assuming Rule of Cool works for you too.
It just turbo does. Every time that I've seen this movie, which I saw it a bunch when I was younger, but I haven't seen it since I was a kid. And I honestly think that this holds up a lot better than probably people think it should, at least to me.
I will say that I could forgive a lot. I really could. And I liked certain portions of this movie. But goddamn, I just can't get past this uber convoluted plot of wanting to like have kids, which really didn't make sense to me when you saw.
Yeah, fuck
that-
having kids.
Well, no, they had like
Facts.
they had vampire kids though.
Yep.
Like there were vampire kids. And I was like, dude, if you want kids, right there. Like, I don't know, man. It was weird. And what's with like the kids being born in like egg sacs and like what? Like, why did
They're
they come
bats.
out as bat demons?
Because vampires can turn into bats.
Yeah, but Dracula's a dude.
I don't think it's like when Dracula gets someone pregnant, out pops a fucking fruit bat or some shit.
How does Dracula even go about getting someone pregnant?
Well, you see, Justin, when a
What-
male vampire and a female vampire
when a
love each
daddy
other very
Dracula
much.
and a mommy Dracula.
I
get
mean, I'm sure
together.
he still has a dick. Like,
But I bet you the dick don't go up. He said he has no heart or pulse.
But he
see,
has
you're thinking way
willpower.
too much into this, Justin.
But this is what I do.
Now you understand why you get these ads.
Yo,
Nah,
real
bro.
fucking
Hey, yo,
talk.
no. Break for the audience. Yo, Nico looks up some weird shit, and now it's showing up.
Nah,
we
don't
ain't gonna-
fucking
we ain't
even
gonna call
give me that
names.
bullshit
we ain't,
right now,
we ain't gonna
Justin.
call names. we
Don't
ain't gonna call names.
even.
Justin's over here Googling all this, like, can vampires get a hard on? Like,
And then it shows up on Nico's computer magically.
It doesn't.
Well,
For the record.
Nico is out here Googling the same shit, and it shows up on mine, okay? So,
Not at all how that works.
so message to the audience, just watch your search history, everyone. And it's too late. If you've searched it, even if you, like, erase, it's still coming up.
you listen to this podcast already, so you're already
You're
fucked.
done. You're done.
This is
You're
already
done.
just a mental hazard by existing. Sorry.
The title of this episode is going to be, if you're listening, it's too late. So,
This is our own personal fucking Rocco's Basilisk.
now, I will say this, right? How'd you feel about the kind of, I don't know, the MacGuffin kind of thing where they give Van Helsing the literal tiny piece of scroll, which it's a fucking
Yo,
piece of scroll.
That was dumb as shit. Are you telling me no one ever said to that
I
thing,
was
in the
thinking the
name
same
of God,
thing.
open this door?
Like, I feel
Ever?
like out of 400 years, somebody would have been like, God, open this door. And then it would have opened.
But you know what the best piece is? Okay, Anna's like great grandfather must have been a fucking wizard or something. Because
For real.
note the lore. They say that he banished Dracula to like an icy realm and he sealed him behind a mirror. And then they had the fucking balls to say, well, he has no reflection, so it makes sense. And I was like, no,
Not in any way, shape, or form.
you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that to me. So
Man.
I was sitting there the whole time like, what? And I watched this movie with Bonner, and when there are the scenes, and I'm just going to talk about it because I'm going to ask you guys what your favorite scenes are. This movie is, as we've said kind of ad nauseum at this point, it's so mid 2000s down to like the fucking Matrixy effects. Like
Yeah.
sometimes there'll be like some slow-mo shit and Van Helsing will do something really badass. But my favorite scene absolutely would have to be, there's a part where Van Helsing is like fighting off the vampires
Mhm.
when they first attack the town, the brides. This dude has like an accuracy of like 0.1%, bro.
Mhm.
He shoots and shoots and shoots his repeating crossbow. It just doesn't work.
He also got like infinite ammo, I guess.
Yes, because there's no way that many crossbow bolts fit on that one rack of ammo he had. And then on top of that, the priest is like, Van Helsing, look, it's the church. And the church is holy water. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a second. This holy water seems very effective. Like, it's a cool scene. Van Helsing dips his crossbow in the holy water and shoots one of the vampires, killing her.
You would think they would use that again later in the film.
You would think they would all start carrying holy water.
This freely available resource that is extremely effective.
No, they do have a counter to that, actually,
Which is what?
because they don't get attacked by vampires. Dracula only takes 1 or 2 people a year, and they're okay with it because if they attack and kill one of the brides, then Dracula's going to be out for revenge. and
Oh,
actually kill
I'm not
people.
talking about the common townsfolk. I'm talking about Dracula, Anna, Carl, and Frankenstein, maybe.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that would make more sense.
yeah, like they're like, we're going to invade Dracula's castle. What might we need?
Could you not just repeating crossbow, holy water, all of the little vampy babies?
Yeah. Or
Get a
Like-
spray bottle.
tell me this. These motherfuckers were hunting a werewolf at the start of the movie and only bought one gun with silver bullets, despite knowing that it would take silver bullets to kill a werewolf. They bought one gun with silver bullets.
Should have been in Boy Scouts. Be prepared.
I don't know. That's kind of wild. And yeah. But without going on too much, I want to get into your favorite scenes. So Dan, what's your favorite scene in this film?
Oof.
Nico, start thinking now.
I kind of don't know. I don't know
Ooh.
if I have a favorite scene.
Damn.
Is it the same scene that you mentioned, or maybe slightly later, when he actually does like crossbow the fuck out of one of the
Yeah, it's when he dips it in the holy
bridesmaids.
water.
Yeah, oh yeah. That scene. That was a cool scene. I enjoyed that, and seeing like the vampire bride
Mhm.
sort of like dissolve and like I don't know, whatever. I thought that was pretty cool.
Agreed. Nico, how about you?
Yeah, I really liked this scene when Van Helsing came into town and we got everyone's introductions to one another. I think it was a lot of fun and the fight choreography was really dynamic and yeah, it was just really good scene.
Fair. So, time for the what would you do? And I will present you with a choice. If you kind of were in the position of one of the townspeople, right, of this village, and you can't leave, that's not an option. You just can't leave. So, you're here in this village and you know Dracula them attack. What would you do as an ordinary person to protect yourself from either getting attacked by Dracula or one of his brides or maybe the werewolf? Is there anything you would do at all besides hope and pray for
I
like
would
a hunter?
just stay making Italian food like all the time in hopes
You
that
know,
the
they didn't
garlic
mention
would
garlic
work.
at all in this movie, did they?
Yeah. You know, give me an old standby, I'll take it.
That's fair because you do remember, as per Dracula, the way to officially kill a vampire is to stake it through the heart, chop off its head, and fill it with garlic.
Yep.
Maybe that would have worked on him.
Yeah.
Wait. What do you mean as per Dracula?
The book.
The book.
Yeah, but literally nothing else about the book is.
I mean, true,
Right.
true.
And if you're in this planet, in this world, there's no Dracula the book.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I would say for me, I would definitely like have more like crosses on deck just because the cross itself was kind of semi-effective on Dracula. So I'm assuming it would be very effective on his brides. And
Probably.
I don't think he really goes out hunting that much himself. I think he sends his brides. So I'd probably just like rock one of those and just chill. Although, and this is the part that really confuses me, apparently you don't just have to be like Catholic or a Christian denomination in general, because there's a Muslim dude when they're at like the R&D tech division where Carl is basically like 19th century M, and it's kind of like James Bondy there for a second.
Yeah.
There's a dude in the back, like a Muslim dude, who very clearly is like, what in the name of like, you know, Allah's wrong with you or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, wait a second. Brother, what are you doing here? But no,
My brother in Christ.
well, no, ironically. But I mean, there's also like a Buddhist monk in the background. So I was like, all right, I guess we're all here fighting vampires together. Which,
Yo, I want to see a Zoroastrian horror movie.
yo, that'd be ill, bro. That would have to be on some cosmic shit, I think.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the church having all those denominations did it right, though. Because how many times have
yeah,
we said,
yes,
like, you
yes.
got to have the Pokemon of.
Yeah.
of the horror shit.
that-
That's
religion,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Fair enough. I agree with that, actually. That's a very DOTD worthy stance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe they should have sent more than one person after Dracula. I'm just saying.
that too.
Yeah.
They probably could have sent a squad. But Dan, if you're in the village, what are you doing?
I would create the ultimate sacrilege and just, like, take a bath in the holy water.
Oh.
Be like, come get me now, bitch.
Damn.
Maybe instead of taking a bath, you could pour a cup full of it over yourself to be less sacrilegious.
Nope.
Or
'Cause
maybe
that was
you
a
could
tiny
like,
little fountain. You're gonna be
I was just,
in
like,
and out of that.
splashing it and-
oh, bro, you could do like Triple H back in the day, and you could put the holy water in your mouth, and when they come for you, like spit it all
Oh,
up in
yeah,
the
there
air
we
with
go.
like
Yeah.
the mist.
That'd be badass.
That would be badass.
Yeah, I would think of a lot of these if I had the time, bro. I'm just saying. Like,
Yeah.
there it is. Also, there's like a church and holy water, so where's the priest?
He died.
Who
I
knows?
don't know.
Fair.
Nobody knows.
So it's time for the critic review. And oh boy, let's see who gets this one. What do you guys think this movie is at on Rotten Tomatoes from the critic's side? Who wants to start off with the guess?
I'm going to say 32.
Nico?
I'm gonna say 25.
Holy shit. Nico's right because it's at a 24%
Wow.
on Rotten Tomatoes. One of the lower ranked movies we've seen. Audience
Yeah.
was a little bit more generous with 57%. But I really want to know your takes. So who wants to lead? And what would you give this movie?
I'll start. This is my big dumb baby brain movie where I don't think about anything and I just have a good time and I kind of love it. It's a trash pile, but it's my trash pile, and it's a 75.
Whoa, that's generous.
I was actually expecting you to say higher, just about how much you loved it. I was expecting
Yeah,
like 80
honestly,
something.
no, fuck it, 80.
Oh,
Whoa.
okay.
Whoa.
All right. Easily influenced over here. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do anything for a nickel.
I agree with Nico to a much lesser extent. I mean, it's kind of a trash movie, but it's fun to watch. But I don't know that it makes up for it that much. I'm gonna say a 60.
I'll say this. I'll keep my thoughts brief because I have a lot of thoughts, and I would need about an hour to say them all. But I fucking hate the portrayal of Dracula in this movie. I actually liked Frankenstein, like I said. I thought he was pretty dope. I think the werewolf
And his monster
presentation
was
as
great,
well.
too.
Yeah, Frankenstein did a good 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah,
He did a
yeah,
good job.
Frankenstein, exactly. I
Yeah.
like the werewolf as well. And I like Frankenstein's monster as well, too.
Yeah.
So I like those pieces. However, this plot is so unnecessarily convoluted. I don't know why let them fight. Like, we just couldn't do that. And it would have been cool.
Yo, Dracula versus Godzilla, let's go.
Well, technically, Godzilla can't kill him, right? Because
He's not a werewolf. Dracula wins by default.
True.
what if Dracula bit him and then turned him?
Vampire Godzilla, holy
Oh, they
shit.
should make that.
Yo. Ayo, Toho, get at us.
Wait, Vampire Godzilla versus Franken-Kong.
Vampire Godzilla every time.
And Werewolf Ghidorah.
Oh!
Oh, shit. Okay. That might be the... Okay, damn. I think that might be the clinch header. Yeah, all right. I'm going with Werewolf Ghidorah.
Okay. Well, while we frantically write to Toho about that, I think Dracula's brides were cooler than Dracula himself. Like, they were like actual vampires. Like, there were
Yeah.
actual scenes where they were doing vampiric things, as opposed to Dracula, whose big thing was walking up walls and talking to people and having conversations.
He had a dope transformation at the
I
end.
don't know. Yeah, he gets a little vampiric.
I mean, he transforms, but he can't stop talking. He has to transform back to talk real quick and then transform again.
That's because of the clouds, Justin.
Yeah.
No, the clouds have nothing to do with him. This is all him. So, with that being said, this movie is not good in terms of the plot. I like the way it looks, though. I can never really hate on Kate Beckinsale and Hugh Jackman that much. So, this is going to get a 55 from me. And I'm going to say it outright. I probably am not going to recommend this movie.
You motherfucker.
I don't know that I would either, to be honest.
In a goddamn heartbeat, I would. Every time.
Well,
Every time.
You did.
you did. And you did it well. I think you represented a good alternate point of view. See, in this podcast, you had someone who's very attached to a lot of the subject material, be very mad. Somebody who's a little more detached, being kind of about the whole deal. And someone who was just willing to discard their thinking cap and have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Just gave myself a real quick lobotomy. It's chill.
Yeah, you get a well-rounded base of opinions here. So, listeners, if you've seen this and you have any thoughts on it, good or bad, tell us we're right or wrong, hit us up. We're on social media on Twitter and Instagram at DoTD Horror. We're also on Facebook, which is, of course, Don't Open That Door. Plus, you can check everything we've done on our website, which is dotdhorror.com. And if you're feeling extra generous, give us a like or a positive review on whatever you're listening to us on, wherever you listen to your podcasts, whatever that may be. But until then, take care of yourselves. Don't fuck around with Frankenstein's monster. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.